Agogwe. The Agogwe was a crypto-humanoid reported from forests in Tanzania, Mozambique, and possibly Kenya, described as a dwarf humanoid covered in russet-colored hair. Although alleged eyewitnesses took it for a monkey, like other African cryptohominids described as hairy dwarves, it has been speculated to be a surviving Australopithecine. Attestations. The Agogwe was first described by Captain William Hickins, who claimed to have seen one, in a 1937 article in Discovery, the popular journal of knowledge. The following year, a colonial wine merchant named Cuthbert Burgoyne, 1876 to 1955, wrote to Discovery claiming that he had also seen such a being. However, previous to this, in 1924, the colonial administrator S.V. Cook wrote of a race of little red men said to inhabit the highlands of Kwa-Ngombe, east of Embu in Kenya. Cook's interpreter told him that he and some others had once been attacked by scores of little red men hurling pebbles in these mountains, which were avoided by locals. Roger Courtney's 1902-1946 or 1949 African guide, Ali, told him that the Mau Mountains were home to little monkey-like people covered in long black body hair, a group of whom had once captured his father near Mount Longonot. Description. Both alleged witnesses thought the Agogwe could have been a monkey, although both compared them to small humans, like little men and little brown men. The Agogwe was reported to walk upright like a man, quite gracefully. It was described as being russet or brown, with Hickins insisting they were covered in hair or fur and stood around 4, or between 4 and 5, tall. According to Philippe Coudray, the big toe of the Agogwe is comparatively larger than that of a man and is distinctly separated from the other toes. Local villagers in Tanzania told Hickins that if one left a gourd of beer and a bowl of food for the Agogwes, they would take the food and do some hoeing and weeding. As thanks. Hickins thought this was simply folklore. Stories of past barter systems are also told about the site. Hickins and Burgoyne both observed a pair, and Burgoynes were seen to coexist with a troop of baboons. Hickins' local guide regarded them as extremely rare beings. Sightings 1920s. Captain Hickins, a colonial administrator and early cryptozoologist, claimed to have observed a pair of Agogwes in what is now Tanzania, which was claimed by the United Kingdom from Germany following the First World War, some years before 1937. George Eberhardt estimates that the sighting occurred sometime during the 1920s. It took place in the Usher and Simbiti forests on the western side of the Wembeer Plains. Although Hickins claimed to have had near encounters with 2 other cryptids, the Mngwa and the Nandi bear, the Agogwe is the only cryptid that he claimed to have actually seen. Some years ago I was sent on an official lion hunt to this area, and while waiting in a forest glade for a maneater, I saw 2 small, brown, furry creatures come from the dense forest on one side of the glade and disappear into the thickets on the other. They were like little men, about 4 feet high, walking upright, but clad in russet hair. The native hunter with me gaped in mingled fear and amazement. They were, he said, Agogwe, the little furry men whom one does not see once in a lifetime. I made desperate efforts to find them, but without avail in that well-nigh impenetrable forest. They may have been monkeys, but if so, they were no ordinary monkeys, nor baboons, nor colobus monkeys, nor sykes, nor any other kind found in Tanganyika. 1920s. Captain Hickins, a colonial administrator and early cryptozoologist, claimed to have observed a pair of Agogwes in what is now Tanzania, which was claimed by the United Kingdom from Germany following the First World War, some years before 1937. George Eberhardt estimates that the sighting occurred sometime during the 1920s. It took place in the Usher and Simbiti forests on the western side of the Wembeer Plains. Although Hickins claimed to have had near encounters with 2 other cryptids, the Mngwa and the Nandi bear, the Agogwe is the only cryptid that he claimed to have actually seen. 1927. In his letter to Discovery, the vintner Cuthbert Burgoyne claimed to have seen a similar being in Portuguese East Africa, now Mozambique, in 1927, while cruising the coast with his wife in a Japanese ship. He allegedly saw a pair of them while observing the shore. In 1927, I was coasting through Portuguese East Africa with my wife in a Japanese cargo boat. We were sufficiently near land to see objects clearly with a 12 magnification glass. There was a sloping beach with light bush above, upon which several dozen baboons were hunting for and picking up shellfish and crabs, to judge by their movements. 2 pure white baboons were among them. These are very rare, but I had heard of them previously. As we watched, 2 little brown men walked together out of the bush and down amongst the baboons. They were certainly not any known monkey, and yet they must have been akin, or they would have disturbed the baboons. They were too far away to be seen in great detail, but these small human-like animals were probably between 4 and 5 feet tall, quite upright, and graceful in figure. At the time, I was thrilled, as they were quite evidently unlike anything I had heard or read. Burgoyne also claimed that an unidentified friend of his, a big game hunter, had once seen a similar sight in Mozambique, alongside several other people. A friend and big game hunter told me he was in Portuguese East Africa with his wife and 3 other hunters and saw a mother, father, and child, of apparently similar animal species, walk across the other side of a bush clearing. The natives loudly forbade him to shoot. Theories. Captain Hickens wondered if the Agogwes he saw could have been monkeys, but he was certain they were no species known to him, including baboons, colobus monkeys, Colobus sp, and Sykes monkey, Cercopithecus albogularis. Burgoyne also insisted that the beings he saw were no monkeys known to him, although he felt they must have been related to the baboons they were traveling with. Bernard Heuvelmans argued that a monkey identity was unlikely due to the Agogwe's obligate bipedalism. Willie Ley and Bernard Heuvelmans discussed the possibility that the Agogwe is a surviving species of Australopithecus, 4 to 1.9 or 1.5 Maya, a bipedal Pleistocene hominin which ranged across East and South Africa. Australopithecus species were generally smaller and more gracile than humans, standing between 3 feet 11 inches and 4 feet 7 inches, and are believed to have been covered in hair, although there is no evidence that this would have been red. Australopithecus fossils have also occasionally been found in association with those of baboons, but the ecological relationship between the 2 primates is not clear. Heuvelmans argued that a species of Australopithecus may have taken to dense forests in order to avoid competition with larger and stronger hominins, allowing it to survive in small numbers. Heuvelmans classified the Agogwe with other small African cryptohominids such as the Site, Kakanakari, Fadingho, and Tokolosh. Ivan T. Sanderson disagreed with the Australopithecus theory, opining that we do not have to go so far as to dredge up the Australopithecines to explain them. Sanderson believed that beings such as the Agogwe and the Site were actually the last remnants of very old, diminutive human populations looked down on by other African races, leading to dehumanized descriptions. The reddish coat could be explained as body paint worn for ceremonial purposes. Sanderson called these putative uncontacted races proto-pygmies. Heuvelmans also considered this possibility, but thought it unlikely because of the Agogwe's hairiness. However, he later wrote that the general category of hairy, hominoids of very small size in Africa could indeed be explained by proto-pygmies.